Yes, hello everyone and welcome to all our West Australian football fans for another exciting season of Around the WAFL. We're back for 2024 and let me tell you folks, you are in for an amazing 6 months of football here on your go-to destination for WAFL podcast. My name is Paul Persick. It's a great pleasure to have your company for season 2024 and joining me throughout the season, you may have heard him on the Bray and Ethan show and also some great stuff with Tap Touch, the one and only Ethan Roth. Ethan, welcome to the show for 2024.
Paul, mate, really appreciate you having me here. I know the amount of work you've done over numerous years for the WAFL, commentary, hosting Sandovers in our podcasting. So really appreciate you having me on here and looking forward to a massive year ahead. It is going to be a big season, no doubt about it. 21 rounds starting from this Easter weekend right through to the big Sunday in September. We're going to have it all covered for you here on Around the WAFL. You can catch us on your podcast provider and on YouTube as well. Tuesday and Thursday episodes drop.
Get ready for the ultimate footy experience. WAFL Wonderland starts Easter Thursday, 6 p.m. at Pentanet Stadium, Joondalup. It's WAFL footy with a wonderland of food trucks, giveaways, DJ and kids activities. Tickets at wafl.com.au.
Let's get right to it, of course. It is going to be a big season, and we're going to start things off with a preview of all 10 teams in the WAFL. All right, let's start it off with the reigning premiers, Ethan. East Fremantle. They'll be starting behind the 8 ball this season because the salary cap breach from last year's finals that impacted 2022, they'll start -4. But they do have a couple of big returns for the season, including a former Sandover medalist.
They do. Blaine Burkhurst returns. Almost a new recruit, as you sort of said. 2022 Sandover medal, coming back from a knee injury. So, he's a pretty explosive player, can go forward, kick goals. So it's going to be, I guess the only question mark is, can he sort of, get through a second ACL?
Yeah, absolutely, and well, that'll be answered in the coming weeks, no doubt about that, because he'll have a few weeks in reserves, I'm being told, just to get the legs in, get the miles in before he can be thrust back into the league side. Also, you've got explosive players along with Boakhurst, like you said, Jonathan Marsh, explosive up forward, that source of intimidation for opposition. You also have Cameron Erdley and Matty Jupp, the two key pillars off the back line for the East Fremantle side. And you've also got the likes of Montalban, who can kick big bags of goals. You've got enormous depth everywhere for East Fremantle. And, you'd be hard-pressed to say that they wouldn't go back-to-back.
And a player that I like is Fraser Turner.
Yes.
He had a massive second half to the year. Obviously, he spent time on Richmond's list, spent time in the SANFL. A bit of a journeyman when it comes to state football right across the country. He had 37 touches in the grand final. So I personally was a bit surprised that he didn't win the best on-ground medal, the Simpson medal, but I'm sure he was just happy to win the premiership medal.
He took to WAFL like a fish to water last year. I mean, gathering plenty of the football, and he has emerged as one of those number one midfielders and a good in and under player as well. And also a big year for East Fremantle as well, because they'll be returning to East Fremantle Oval after a couple of years at the WACA ground. Round 7 against East Perth in May. It'll be a happy homecoming for the Sharks.
Absolutely. The Tragics down there. It's been a while coming back to their loyal home ground. So obviously time at the WACA, which they've really enjoyed, breaking that 25-year premiership drought, but nothing like their spiritual home.
No, absolutely. Over there in Moss Street, those Loyals are going to be absolutely going bonkers come May when they take on East Perth in round 7. And no doubt about it, East Fremantle will have those lofty expectations. Bill Monahan returning for another year to defend his premiership coach title, and it is going to be a big year. But even if they start behind the 8 ball, it's not going to make a huge impact. It's just going to be depending on how they perform as reigning premiers. Will that premiership hangover haunt them, or will they, survive and thrive through that and explode into the top 5?
It's hard to win a premiership, and it's even harder to go back-to-back. So a big challenge ahead. But I think they've got a young group coming through as well. You look at someone like Jack Cleaver, who was part of the premiership team. He's only 19, 20. Colin Sanchez, another one from the Colt squad coming up. So I think while they have, the same sort of list, they also bringing a lot of youth in as well. So they're constantly changing things up.
Peel Thunder now. Let's go to Peel Thunder, of course, last year's runners-up, and the early signs of impact have already been shown for Peel Thunder, last year's runners-up. Early Dockers injuries. Again, the season is going to depend on how much strength the Dockers have in their lineup, and in turn, what provides Peel Thunder, because when Peel Thunder were on their way to the grand final, everything was going right because the Dockers weren't playing so well. They didn't make it to the finals, but if the Thunder have this horror run of luck with Docker's injuries again, if it continues this season, that's going to pose more problems for the Peel Thunder side.
Yeah, their depth will no doubt be tested. They're going to obviously rely more on their sort of local talent, guys like Jacob Blight to keep taking next steps as a key position player, because we know, as you said, what happened to AFL level with injury. Oscar McDonald, so guys like Josh Draper, who played a lot of Peel last year, have to go up. Therefore, other guys have to step up. So their depth will be tested, but Peel have shown that they are capable of doing it throughout the years.
But think about it, their balance as far as local players and Dockers players was a lot better last year compared to their premiership years of 2016-17, when about 80% of the side were Dockers players. Last year, there was only about 10 or 11. So they've got the balance right between local and Peel players. How Adam Reid can maintain that, Adam Reid being the new Peel Thunder coach in place of Jeff Valentine for 2024, that's also going to be another question. How is Adam Reid going to inject his vision to this Peel Thunder side that has made the grand final and is wanting some redemption after last year?
Yeah, absolutely. Jeff Valentine, obviously, a great servant of WA footy in general, obviously spending time at West Perth a lot. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see that sort of balance, because the Dockers and the Peel players, how can they sort of gel together when they're at different I know they train a little bit together, but obviously that synergy is something that Adam Reid's going to have to implement.
Absolutely, and also what's also going to be on the spotlight is their midfield depth. They really exploded in 2023. Very strong midfield. How that's going to play out in 2024 with a couple of those injuries, as you mentioned, Josh Draper as well being one of those early in this. Imagine if he creates a big impact upon his return.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, experience at the top level is only going to help him when he comes back down to WAFL. So, it's certainly an interesting year ahead for Peel. I think, they'll be no doubt still think that they can challenge.
The Peel Thunder looking to challenge again for a premiership in 2024. Let's go to Subiaco. Of course, they finished third last year, got to a preliminary final, beaten by Peel Thunder. They've got a brand new captain for 2024, Greg Clark. Of course, he came over from West Coast. He adds plenty of experience to an already stacked Subiaco side.
Yeah, just a great character, Greg Clark. Comes back after obviously winning a premiership, winning a Simpson medal in 2021. And they've recruited Luke Foley, who also comes back from the Eagles, so he's going to add to their midfield depth. They've just got so much depth in their midfield. I know Steph Gyro goes out, unfortunately, with an ACL, but you look at guys like Taj Schofield, the Hickmots, they just bat so deep.
But also, of course, a couple of losses through the draft as well. Colton Tholstrup, who made a great impact in the finals last year for the Lions. Of course, he's over east playing in the AFL, but they cover a lot of their losses with already some tremendous experience, especially their forward line. That forward line is going to be in the spotlight as well this season. Ben Sokol had a difficult finals campaign, but once he hits his straps, he can kick big bags, and that'll send Subiaco off and running. He's going to be that number one target for opposition defenders.
And, you shut down a Ben Sokol, but you still got to, shut down a Borchett and these sort of players too, who continue to bob up. So, interested to see how they can cover the loss of Zach Clark. I think it's going to be a massive loss as
Absolutely.
a ruck. I know Jack Mayo sort of been a backup ruck in past years, but, with his injury history, he's not really an out-and-out ruckman. So Zach Clark obviously moves on as aging 34-year-old, which, somewhat expected, but that's still going to be a massive position to cover.
One player I'm really keen to see, really make an impact in midfield is Josh Robbins. So I reckon Josh Robbins, he's got that ability to win the ball at ground level and in the air and deliver and maintain his momentum. He is absolutely incredible. He's a wonderfully talented young midfielder, created some big moments in a couple of the early finals matches for Subiaco last year. I'm really intrigued to see how he goes.
Yeah, absolutely. Been around for a little while now. I know he's plugged away in the reserves quite a bit, but I think he's 24, so if he can really, this could be really the next couple of years can really be the prime for him.
Can they maintain this finals force for so long? I mean, they've got so many experienced players and they've got a great coaching staff. Bo Wardman going into another year as WAFL league coach for Subiaco. Can they maintain it? Because the competition is really closing up, especially with 6 or 7 teams that can make the 5.
It is, yeah. I think they still have experience, though, right the way through, as you sort of said. Angus Dewar's still there. I know Lee Kitchen stepped down, but he's still playing. You know what I mean? So, obviously, the loss of Zach Clark, as we covered, but they've got experience every line, and those sort of key pillars, forward line, midfield, back line, are really vital.
Let's go now to Claremont. Now, Claremont made their way to a first semi-final, got beaten by Subiaco at the end of last year, but The question is the window closing? Because Claremont, they've had so many opportunities with the side that they have got to make a premiership campaign, but they just haven't been able to do so. There's a missing link that's there, and there's going to be even more missing links for Claremont because Tia Miles has now left the club. He's going over east. That backline is big loss with Miles' departure.
Yeah, it is. I know they obviously bring in Alec Waterman.
Yes.
Martin Frederick as well. Yeah, it baffles me how they haven't won a premiership with their list over the last 5 years. Been in a couple of grand finals, unlucky you could say, but with Jai Bolton and the likes another year older, they really, really need to capitalise now.
Absolutely. And, with a couple of the younger players as well that are looking to bolster themselves up the ranks. And also, they've got a couple of good underage recruits as well that'll look to make their way through the Colts up into the league as well. We saw that with Dan Curtin last year. He made his debut in league in the semi-final. He's been drafted to Adelaide. But a couple of those younger ones could really bolster the Claremont side a little further. I mean, there's a lot of those guys over there at Claremont that are getting around to their last year or two, but are still playing at the best of their ability. So is the window closing? Not completely. I reckon they could still make the finals. Will they go far? It's a bit of an unknown.
It is a bit of an unknown, but they've got to strike now.
Oh, yeah. They have to. They've got to strike now. It's an absolute no-brainer. Ashley Prescott, great coach. He can bring Claremont back from the brink. He's done that several times last year. He could really spark up this side whenever the chips are down. But, you got players, Bolton, Bailey Rogers, former Sandover medalist. He's going to be in for another big year as well. Declan Hardesty as well. Even Kieran Gowdy to an extent as well. I'm really intrigued to see how he can go in the midfield and a bit up forward as well. And also the likes of Manuel, he's going to really be an electric force up forward with his marking and kicking and his presence overall in the 50.
Yeah, and that's the thing, last year I know it was a bit of a struggle at times for them to cover Jack Buller mid-season, but if those guys can step up, they're only going to improve and add to the scoreboard.
It's going to be a vital season for Claremont as far as their window is concerned. East Perth now, the Royals, they made a big statement last year, getting to the finals for the first time in a few years under Ross McQueen. They became a much more explosive side to watch, East Perth. They were a very exciting side. They went on a run of 9 straight wins during the season, and they really learned a hard finals lesson last year. If you want to be a contender, you've got to really up in the intensity in finals football. They got that lesson against Claremont, and I reckon they could spring up a surprise in September.
By far the best midfield in the comp for mine.
Oh, yeah. No doubt.
You look at Schumacher, Croden, Brayshaw, the Sandover medalists. You throw in Scott Jones, a fit Scott Jones.
Yeah, he'll come back this year from broken leg.
When he's up and firing, they have to fire now. They got experience right across the board. Nick Robertson, another one, but youth at the same time. So they've got that balance. And you look at their midfield, Croden, Schumacher, and Brayshaw. They're not above 26 years of age. Not
above 26 years. It's absolutely incredible. That midfield wouldn't lose too many games with the way they go about it, especially with that all-out attacking brand. They played such a spectacular attacking brand of football last year.
They did, and they complement each other in the midfield as well. They work together well. There was a bit of talk about, one of them not winning the Sandover because they're just going to steal votes to each other. But obviously that was proven wrong.
No, and it can complement well through their forward line, and especially with Sam Van Diemen. He can kick goals from anywhere. I did one of his games mid-season last year where he kicked a right foot snap from the boundary line from the impossible angle. He could bring something out of nothing to the table for East Perth, Sam Van Diemen. He's a tremendous forward, and I look forward to seeing how he can go in 2024. But also the back line as well. Dittmar, Wilcox, those are the two keys in defensive 50 that opposition forwards will have to look out for.
I do love Kay Dittmar, but unfortunately he has moved to the Sandford.
Yes.
So obviously taking his career elsewhere, but I know others will step up in that capacity.
West Perth, of course, they finished with 6 straight wins during 2023, but what's the old saying? They were all dressed up with nowhere to go because they didn't make the 5. New coach, Jason Salisic for West Perth, but will their approach change under Jason Salisic? They had a great finish to the season, 6 straight wins. They were backing each other to the man, attacking the football, getting first to it, but is that approach going to change under Salisic?
Yeah, only time will tell. Connor West returns.
Yes.
I'm a massive fan of Connor West.
Big get.
Obviously, time at AFL level. They do lose Zach Langdon, who obviously only played sort of half a season last year.
And Mark Hutchings as well. He officially announced last night that he's hanging him up.
Yeah, and obviously guys like Black and Nelson, another year older, but they're just warriors of the WAFL. They'll accumulate plenty of the footy. I think Nelson broke the record for the most disposals.
Yes, he did.
In the WAFL competition, so that's just outstanding over longevity.
Now, Tyler Keitel as well, he returns for another year up forward. I mean, he is the prominent goal kicker in the WAFL at the present time. I mean, he can kick bags of 5 or 6 on any given day.
Yeah, and I always think about this. West Perth, they just back in their local talent so well. I feel like they've never been a massive team in terms of recruiting. Like, they get players back like Connor West, as I said, but they just back in their local talent so well from Colts level, reserves level. They make a lot of grand finals. Obviously disappointing the year last year off the back of the premiership, but you wouldn't write off West Perth.
No, you wouldn't write off the Falcons at all because, with the depth that they've got, especially in midfield and up forward, the only area of concern I have is their backline. Their backline was really put to the test last year, conceding around about 12 to 13 goals against teams like Peel Thunder and Swan Districts as well. That loss to Swan Districts at home last year really hurt their chances. And if they'd had won at least 2 of those 3 that they lost at home, maybe they would have had a shot for the 5. So their record at home was very suspect last year. They're going to have to fire up at home this year.
Which is unusual because usually Joondalup is such a tough place to go and win. But clearly, I don't know if sides have worked out a way to win up there with the wide ground. But West Perth, I think they pride themselves on winning more games at home than not.
Even tougher because obviously there's going to be some day-night games as well over there in Joondalup. New lights have been installed. We'll preview the first one under lights as well on Thursday's episode, West Perth taking on Claremont. That one's going to be a beauty. Okay, Swan Districts. They lost a lot of close games. They've lost a lot of experience from over east. And Andrew Prune's facing the heat in 2024. In his second year as coach, can he spark the Swans back into the 5?
Yeah, it's going to be a challenge, isn't it? Obviously, as you said, the pressure's only going to heat up on Andrew Prune. Just lost so many close games last year. I know that with Jared Cameron, that game, they finally got a bit of luck, but they just need to find a way. I think they need to turn Bassendean Oval, Stibble Oval, into a bit more of a fortress.
Yeah.
I know in years gone past, it's been a real place, like, the crowd's really loud, but can they just make it a place where teams fear to come and they just win games, and if they can pinch a few on the road, then that's good as well.
It's also going to be very difficult for Swans forward line as well because Thomas Edwards had an ACL injury at the end of last year. He's out. He's not going to play at all in 2024. So who do they turn to add to the scoreboard pressure for Swan Districts? Thomas Edwards has been their key.
Yeah, I know. It's that's devastating for Tom. Obviously, one of the most improved and I guess players of the competition just come onto the scene. Bags were fun last year. So that's a massive loss. They've recruited Jake Bassini back from Port Adelaide, who's going to bolster up their back line without a doubt. Yeah,
that back line's going to really be bolstered by his arrival come the start of the season when they take on West Coast, but also the midfield as well. One man who is again going to have another big season, Jesse Turner, just racks up possessions for fun. How he didn't get more Sandover votes last year, it is an absolute mystery.
Ball magnet, absolutely. Ball magnet. And just, good to see him represent the state as well last year, get some recognition there. So he just accumulates the footy and spiritual leader as well. Yeah,
he is, absolutely. And I think, his leadership really sparks off. It rubs off on the side as well, to get them back into contests where all hope is lost. They did that several times, got to within a couple of kicks of the sides that finished above them on the ladder, like Subiaco, who they beat over at Steel Blue Oval late last year, and also West Perth, who they beat in Joondalup as well. So they can take it to the finals contenders, but it's just a matter of getting over the line and finding that final link to win close games, whether it be at home or on the road. What about South Fremantle? King Schloith returns. I'm referring, of course, Hayden Schloith, an all-time legend of not only South Fremantle but also the WAFL as well. He's spent a year over at Katanning as well over in the country, helped them win a flag as well, and now he returns to the Bulldog land and in the hopes of winning another premiership at South Fremantle. And I reckon this could be the spark that the forward line is desperately needed, because you've got Brendan Donaldson playing as the swing man. He can kick 4 or 5 goals on the run and bring South Fremantle back into the contest. He and Schloith, who's going to spend some more time up forward, can be a potent combination.
Yeah, real transition phase, I guess, for South Fremantle last year, right the way through all their programs. But yeah, Schloith returning, Sandover medalist. I didn't see it coming, to be honest. I thought he was done.
Caught everyone by surprise.
Hung up the boots for good, but obviously sparked, he's missed that passion for WAFL footy. And they've recruited really well. They got Luke Paulson, who spent some time at Peel Thunder, was a draft prospect only a couple of years ago. It's been around, Fremantle a little bit in the Dockers space. They recruited, some really good young players like Connor McDonald comes over from Perth.
Big get.
For some senior opportunity. Lewis Rayson comes over from South Australia, another young player. So there's a real young brigade coming through at South Fremantle, and if they can balance the likes of Sloyth with those young players, it's only going to, balance their whole team up really well.
Who's going to cover the ruck? That's going to be the big question, because obviously Jimmy Miller has left the club. He's gone back to Victoria, and also a big question mark surrounding Brock Higgins as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Their ruck depth is going to be tested. So, yeah, I guess it's just a wait and see there. But hopefully they can find someone, because as we know, you need a solid ruck, and you need to be able to shoulder the loads decently.
Chase Bourne as well, I reckon he could be one that could play that third man role in that forward line. He's a good young forward, maintains the ball at ground level, and he's a good kick as well. So I reckon he, Schloith and Donaldson at the same time can play as that potent forward trio and can spark the Bulldogs scoring pressure. They could become a more high scoring, high attacking side.
Chase Bourne, a lot of tricks up his bag. He loves it. Caden Harbour as well.
Caden Harbour, yes.
I remember his derby game last year. Kicked 3 goals when there was not many goals kicked on a wet and windy day at the WACA. So he's another one who can bob up. And I also like Ashton Ferreira on the wing. I think he had 26 disposals on league debut as an 18-year-old.
26,
He's got so much speed, so much upside. So he's a name to watch out for as well.
And he's only getting better. He's only getting better as Ferreira. Great midfielder. Absolute ball magnet he is, no doubt about that. Perth. They are expected to be the big improvers. They are expected to be the big improvers, are the Perth Demons. Of course, Peter German back for another year as coach, and they have got some big recruiters from interstate. And, of course, Adrian Barrage, the president, playing with the checkbook a little bit, but that's not a bad thing. You want to get the big recruits, big opportunities, and a chance to break a long premiership drought. And Perth, in their recruiting, they've delivered in spades. Yeah,
you talk about Charlie Constable, who comes off a Gold Coast Suns VFL premiership. Comes to Perth. Sam Simpson as well, who's played at Geelong. That midfield depth is only going to add to the likes of Byrne, Taylor when he goes in there. So they're stacked when it comes to midfield in particular.
It was just how they perform on the field as well, because there's a lot of missing links that's there for the Perth Football Club. They weren't able to deliver on the field. They only had the 2 wins on the board. But I reckon they can get at least 5 or 6 more with the recruits that they've got. It's just about how they can gel on the field. They had a pretty good pre-season. They had a couple of close wins against Claremont and Peel Thunder in the pre-season. So it'll be interesting to see how Perth can use that fine-tuning and get some good results early.
Yeah, I mean, the Perth faithful have been starved for a long time now. Obviously, we speak about that finals campaign when they broke the drought in 2020. But other than that, for Perth, the competition's just better, I think, when Perth are up and running.
But also, of course, they've got Trent Manzoni in there as well. Yep. Of course, he came over from West Perth at the end of 2022, and he can provide a spark as a key midfield, key forward player. Would it be safe to say that if they finish 6th or 7th in 2024, would that be a pass mark for Perth?
I don't think so. I think they have to be pushing for finals, honestly, with the recruits they have. I know people might think, you've got to give them time to, come to a new state and that. But I just think, you recruit for the now. It's a now call to get these guys in.
You've put it out there, Ethan. Magnificent stuff. Finally, the West Coast Eagles, their season for 2024. Where do they go from here? Where do they go from here is the question that everyone's been asking about the Eagles with injuries, the question about their future in the WAFL. There's been a lot of news about a deadline to join the VFL competition as a reserves team. Just where do they go from here?
Yeah, it's the unknown, really. I mean, last year, obviously, just such a dreadful year off the back of what happened in the AFL. They're just no competition, really. Every time they would play, unfortunately, every time they played opposition, you just knew it was going to probably be a belting. So I don't know if as we kind of said with Peel Thunder, it just relies heavily on AFL. And
absolutely,
they've lost guys like Alec Waterman. Obviously, the rule that's been put in place where you can't play for another WAFL club if you're employed by the Eagles.
Yeah, that forced Sam Rotham out of West Perth.
That's going to impact. So yeah, West Coast, it's a waiting game.
One thing that I reckon is going to be a plus for the Eagles is they've got a new coach, Kyle Horsley, former premiership player at Subiaco. That's going to boost West Coast to an extent. Horsley's going to give these young boys a lot of great experience under his tutelage.
Yeah, one of the best players over the last 20, 30 years himself. Multiple premierships, Simpson medals, been in the development space at West Coast for a little while now, and I reckon he's the type that you want to be coached by.
Absolutely.
If
No
you're
doubt.
a young Eagles player.
If they can they get some wins on the board, I reckon they can get at least one or two, possibly against, clubs maybe like Swan Districts or even Perth as well. Of course, they played out a draw, West Coast and Perth last season. They've got the players to do it, but it's about that link up to their 22.
It is, yeah. It's, as I said, it's just, can they get a couple of wins? I think they can. Like, they have to improve off last year. They simply have to. What that looks like from a win-loss ratio, I'm not sure, but they have to aim for more than 2 points on the board.
That's the 10 teams for 2024. Listeners, let us know how you think your club's going to go in season 2024. You can let us know on Instagram, Twitter, and on Facebook, or you can, of course, let us know on the Around the Waffle as well on our podcast page. It's hosted on Acast, as well as your podcast providers here throughout season 2024.
Punt from 50, win. Little too into the game, win. Too cocky, almost a win. Risking it all for the glory, win. It's win-win at the Waffle. Great footy, food and entertainment. Find out more at waffle.com.au.
All right, Ethan, let's put it all on the line. Our predictions for season 2024. I'm going to go first. Season ladder. I reckon East Perth will finish on top of the ladder for 2024. The side they've got, absolutely brilliant and the best midfield in the competition. Subiaco will finish second. I reckon Subi will get in there again, host a double chance, and a home qualifying final. West Perth will take third. I reckon they'll bounce back in a big way and finish in the top three. East Fremantle, they'll still make the 5, but with that -4, it'll set them back just a little bit. But I reckon they'll take 4th, and I'm not going to make the same mistake again as I did last year with Claremont. They'll make the 5. I should explain. Last year, tipped Claremont to miss the 5, ended up with egg on my face, which is a bit of a usual occurrence. South Fremantle will just miss out. Perth will get 7th. Pure Thunder will have the biggest fall, I reckon, especially with the early run of injuries. Swan Districts and West Coast will round out the ladder. Grand final, so I'm going for a Perth Derby. Perth Derby Grand Final. You get 40,000 at Optus Stadium. It's going to be a spicy afternoon. East Perth versus West Perth, and I'm going to say East Perth. That'll take out the flag, first in 22 years. Sandover medalist will be Luke Meadows. 3 times lucky will be for Luke. And the Bernie Naylor medalist, I reckon, will actually be Brendan Donaldson. Okay. I reckon there'll be a surprise with the Bernie Naylor medalist. Yeah, small forward. Plays that swingman role very well, and I reckon he could get South Fremantle further up the ladder. Maybe just missing out on finals, yes, but I reckon South Fremantle will have a better season through his great input up forward.
And for me, I've gone similar right at the top of the ladder. East Perth, I think, will take out the minor premiership just with that midfield. I think their time is now. Subiaco in second. East Fremantle in third. So slipping a little bit, but I think they're still going to be a contender. Claremont in fourth. Pure Thunder in fifth. I think they can sneak into the finals regardless of the Fremantle availability. Obviously, it will help if they have more players, but I think we've seen that they can balance it well. West Perth, I do have missing out. I just think... apart from Connor West, who have they brought in? Those guys, as I said, Aaron Black, they're only getting a year older. So I just think potentially they might miss. South Fremantle at 7th. I think they can improve a bit with some of those young players. I think they can win some games for sure. Perth at 8th. I was tempted to put them a bit higher with those recruits, but I'm just not sure how they're going to fit in straight away to the WAFL system.
Yeah.
I think they'll do well personally, but as a collective, I'm not sure. Swan Districts at 9th, just struggling to see how they can, improve a lot back off last year. And then the Eagles at 10th, but I think the Eagles can hopefully improve, but I don't think they're going to move too much ladder-wise.
Okay.
Grand finalists, East Perth and Subiaco face off in a grand final.
East Perth and Subi.
That's 2014.
2014, that's correct.
And unlike that 2014 grand final, I think East Perth are going to break the drought.
The Royals.
I think they're going to get home. This is the year for them. Sandover medalist, I go on Greg Clark.
Yes. New captain of Subiaco.
Yeah, I think he's just going to dominate. I think he was quite unlucky to be delisted from AFL level, and just coming back, he just put some high numbers on the board. Such a big-bodied midfielder at 194 centimetres as well. And Bernie Naylor medal, I've gone for a tie. I was tempted to put Thomas Edwards in there until I heard about his ACL, unfortunately. Mitch Schofield from East Perth, I think, He trained with Richmond over the summer.
He
That's
did,
only going to
yes.
add to him. Just a real aerialist, but he's so mobile as well. And kicks big bags with fun. And Ben Sokol, I just can't go past him
Going for a tie in the Bernie Nailer.
Yeah, Ben Sokol, I just think he's the evergreen player of the WAFL along with Tyler Keitel, I suppose. But I think he'll take out another Bernie Nailer medal, albeit a tie with Mitch Schofield.
Big picks from you, Ethan. Fantastic stuff, as always. That does it for our very first edition of Around the WAFL for season 2024. Remember, you can catch us on your podcast provider or on YouTube as well. And if you want to see the best social content from Around the WAFL, you can check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Ethan, have a great season of footy. I'll see you on Thursday.
Absolutely, mate. Look forward to it.
Listeners, we'll see you on Thursday for our Round 1 preview here on Around the WAFL for season 2024.